If 14-year-old Ben were to whiz past you on his bicycle, you would never guess the problems this child was experiencing. In 1992, in the American city of Sacramento, a boy was born and named Ben. He grew up as an ordinary child until, at the age of 2 years and 11 months, he was diagnosed with retinoblastoma, a rare form of cancer that affects the retina of the eye. The disease is most often found in children under the age of 3 in one eye, but Ben had both eyes affected. This disease progressed very quickly, and so doctors had to remove the child first one eye and then the other. At the age of 3, Ben stopped seeing. Ben's mother, Aquanetta Gordon, took these events hard, but even then she was sure that the child would be fine. In childhood, Aquanetta was acquainted with a blind boy whom parents protected literally in everything. Later that child became completely helpless and completely dependent on his parents. To prevent her own son from becoming a helpless child, Aquanetta taught him independence and did not restrict his movements. She encouraged the child to jump, made him go down and up the stairs on his own, do complicated exercises, and run. Thanks to her efforts, by the age of 4, Ben was able to navigate independently in space. At the age of 6, Ben realized that the clicking sound when he pressed various buttons was reflected from nearby objects and helped him to see them again. Ben learned to make a specific clicking sound using his tongue and palate. He clicked in every room of his house, listening for sounds that reflected off the couch, table, sink, shower curtain, trash can, and similar things. Ben's mother encouraged this behavior in every way possible for her son, as she understood that this was his new way of seeing the world. It is unlikely that Ben was aware of his actions due to his age. It was the child's brain that instinctively adjusted and thus reacted to the new invisible world around him. Subsequently, Ben applied his acquired abilities on the street. He learned to distinguish a small car from a parked truck, to see poles and obstacles, and once recognized a neighbor who was walking on the sidewalk 5 houses away from him. He picked up the peculiar sound of her footsteps in sandals. The amazing method Ben used has been around for millions of years and is called echolocation. Echolocation is a method by which the position of an object is determined by the time delay in the return of a reflected wave, sound, or radio. Human echolocation is the ability of people to detect objects in the environment by perceiving the echoes from these objects by actively creating sounds, for example, by tapping their cane, lightly stomping their foot, snapping their fingers, or making clicking sounds with their mouth. Ben learned to play basketball, ride a bicycle and surfboard, and beat his brother at video games because he was able to understand the meaning of a particular game sound. His mother did not create any limitations for him because of his health, and so Ben perceived himself as a complete person and did all the things a normal child his age would do. One day Ben came up to me and sadly said he wished he could see this, to which I replied, "Look at your abilities. If the lights went out now, we'd be lined up and following you," recalled Aquanetta Gordon. The woman always supported and encouraged her son. At age 14, Ben enrolled as a freshman in high school. For the first week, few people in the school guessed that Ben had a secret of his own. It was hard to imagine, just as you would have a hard time believing that a child riding a bicycle through the neighborhood was completely blind. Unlike Ben's mother, the school administrators disapproved of his activity and didn't want him climbing the stairs on the playground with the other kids, and the school counselor resented his refusal to use a cane. But by that time the boy had already coped with his blindness, so the difficulties for him were insignificant. Society considered the child blind, but he himself did not feel disabled and saw only differently. Unfortunately, the cancer progressed, and therefore at the age of 16 Ben Underwood passed away. But despite his illness, his short life proved to be full of possibilities, and he had relative freedom of action, which he enjoyed. There are 2 things I would like to emphasize in this amazing story. First, Ben's mother did not put up walls for her child in the form of restrictions, taking into account his peculiarities. Because of this, the child's brain was able to develop unique abilities that other people do not possess, due to lack of need. Secondly, it is a perfect illustration of how the brain is able to extract a huge amount of information from seemingly meaningless information. Who would argue with the fact that for the average person, the information carried by sound waves reflected from an object is meaningless? What to say if the majority of this information is simply not even able to extract? But for another, meaningless information carries meaning and possibilities.